How many times does God expect us to forgive someone who harms us and who hurts us? We may all have had a friend or an enemy who is constantly saying unkind things to us, and although they apologize later and ask us to forgive them, it isn't long before they're at the same thing all over and all over again. At Bible study this week, an interesting phrase came up. How many times am I to forgive someone? Just like this. It's funny how God works. Some of Jesus' disciples apparently had the same problem we've all had. On one occasion, one of them asked Jesus if he should forgive someone as many as 7 times, and Jesus replied, I say not 7 times, but 77 times. What Jesus meant by this expression was that we ought to forgive others without limit, to be limitless. And why is this? The reason Jesus went on to say is because we should treat others the same way God has treated us. You see, we owe God a debt that is far greater than anything we could ever repay in our whole lives. But God in His grace has forgiven us anyway. Not because we deserve it, but simply because His love and His mercy. He is love and mercy. And once we have experienced God's forgiveness and His grace in our own lives, we should treat others in the same way. They may not deserve it, no, but neither did we when God forgave us. St. Paul tells us, be kind and compassionate to one another, forgiving each other, just as Christ forgave you. But one part of the equation is seldom heard. It's always left out, that you first must be compassionate to yourself. Forgiveness begins at home, right here. It sounds egotistical, but unless you forgive yourself, give to yourself, then you cannot give to others. You cannot give what you do not have, whether it be money, or forgiveness, or anything else. So you must find the compassion within for yourself before you can even start to try to figure out other people. Don't even try it. If you don't have compassion for yourself, give it up. Find that compassion and love for yourself first. So if you've been in a crappy relationship with friends or enemies, husbands or wives or families, you must first be able to forgive yourself, love yourself, and feel the love that God has for you. Otherwise, you're just pretending to act compassionate, aren't you? If we don't extend forgiveness to ourselves, then we are acting and pretending that we are Christian, aren't we? I'm not being cute here. You must first have compassion for yourself. And I'll repeat that time and time again. There are times in our lives when we have been doormats. Everybody knows what a doormat is. Something that people walk all over. When someone can't stand up for themselves or for others. God does not want us to be doormats. When He asks us to forgive, we must forgive each and every time, but we cannot be doormats. We cannot be Christian doormats. We have to use more than just words when we forgive. Words can be really deceiving, my brothers and sisters, as we've heard over the last year within politics, fake news, all these crazy words. Your Christianity, our walk, has to be more than mere words. It has to be more than speaking Christianese. In the South, I've talked to Ava about this before, and I might have talked to a few of you about it. In the South, there are sayings that seem Christian, but are not. When you hear the saying, bless her heart, well, bless her heart means nothing what it sounds like, bless her heart. You're telling them pretty much to drop dead. Aren't you precious? Aren't you precious down south? Means the same. Pretty much drop dead. There are some Christians that you hear time and time again, and I've been in their company, evangelicals, that will say, praise God, after every sentence. They'll say, isn't the weather nice? Praise God. Isn't it a beautiful day out? Praise God. After a while, after about the first 3 or 4 sentences, it drives you nuts because there is something not real about the conversation. Words, we must forgive. Beside just using words, we must forgive from the heart. Because all words that sound Christian don't really mean what they sound like. So Jesus asks us to forgive others, but we also must be able to forgive ourselves and love ourselves first. We see this in the Gospels that Jesus is nothing of a doormat. He lays to ruin the marketers at the temple. He knocks them over, kicks them over, takes a whip and drives everybody out of the marketplace. This is not a doormat. He countless times tells Peter off because Peter gets the whole story crooked, and Jesus tells him straight off, Peter, you've got it wrong again. And he does it with the other disciples because of their lack of understanding. Jesus is no doormat, and neither should you be. Sometimes we see Jesus as just that nice guy. He's not just that nice guy that keeps on saying, oh, it's all right that you do this, it's all right that you do that. No, Jesus says, go and sin no more. Jesus is no doormat. He's no pushover. He's a nice guy, but there's a lot more to him than that. One day when you and I pass away from this earth, we will stand before God. We will stand before God to answer for your life here on earth. And that day will come quicker than you think. You will have no one there to stand with you. Your husband won't be able to stand with you. Your wife, your father, your mother, your sister, your friends, your best friends. You will stand before God alone to be judged. You will be responsible for yourself and your actions that were done in this life that was given to you. When you stand before God, hopefully self-love and compassion are things that you have experienced as you stand before Him. Our lives, we must forgive others from the heart with our lives. Not just mere words. Then we can love from a deep love, not a pretend, saccharine Christian kind of love that you see on television so often. My brothers and my sisters, find time this week to forgive people who may have harmed you in various ways. But before you do that, make sure that you have love in your heart for yourself. This is crucial. And I think sometimes when we read this gospel, we miss that point. Love begins at home. And home is here, the home of the Holy Spirit. Amen. Let's stand in.